Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, stories of success through setbacks from Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. Today, we have Mari with us to share her story, and I'm so excited to dive in. So, if you don't mind, do you want to get us started by sharing just a little bit about your story?
Yes, absolutely. I never know how to answer that, right? It's like, oh gosh, where do I go? Which story do I tell? And
Right?
let me just start by saying, hey, we might be interrupted today because it's a snow day in the Pacific Northwest. So I have my 14-year-old at home who just had friends dropped off. So I was like, oh, Cooper's here. Awesome.
I
And
love
so who knows? And this is what we do, right? This is what we do as moms. We continue to go after our goals and our dreams and our passions while dealing with the chaos of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I can't believe you're having a snow day. We barely have any snow on the ground. I'm in Wyoming, so
Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Yeah, this is new and it's like we barely have a dusting and they're going to build igloos. They got high hopes, okay?
I love it. I can't wait. You'll have to share pictures.
Totally. Yes. So, okay, I have three kids. My oldest is 22. He goes to UCSD. My middle daughter is at Oregon State University. And then my 14-year-old is at home. So
Mhm.
we're closer to empty nesters. We're actually like closer to becoming grandparents than the opposite, I guess. And I'm a multiple business owner. I have an insurance agency. I started that business in 2008 and realized quickly that selling insurance wasn't my passion. What I loved was coaching my team. And so I would coach my team on insurance and sales and the conversations and how to help people overcome objections and through no building trust with my team, they started asking me for personal advice and personal help. And so I started coaching my team on their personal lives. I posted that on social media about 8 years ago. Women started coming to me saying, hey, would you coach me? Hey, what are you doing? What is this coaching thing? And so that's how I organically got into coaching.
Amazing.
A couple years ago, I went on a retreat and for women was sitting around on day one, and one of the women confided in the group and said, I almost didn't come. I was like packed, ready to go, and I almost didn't come. And she said, because of mom guilt. And I thought, I was kind of confused. I was like, what? But I looked around, Jessica, this room, and every other mom in the room was nodding, like, oh, yes, preach. And I thought, oh my God, there's something here that's interesting. And so I started researching and I started digging in and I started developing tools around this conversation and around this universal phenomenon that 98.4% of moms experience called mom guilt. And so that's my mission right now for here is to break the conversation wide open to destigmatize it so that we realize A, we're not alone, and B, there's another way.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. That is so great. That is a big statistic. No.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it
Wow.
was it was interesting and I didn't start by researching. That was a byproduct. Um, I was on a trip with my husband. He's a pilot, and so I do a lot of solo parenting. And I was on a trip with him and I was out to dinner with him and another pilot. And I was telling the guys about mom guilt. And I was so excited because the more I talked about mom guilt, the more women were reaching out to me and sharing stories. And it just felt really like intentional. It felt like the universe was like, keep talking about this. And my husband leaned in to the conversation. And the other gentleman, I mean, leaned like all the way out. Like he could have been on like a recliner. And he said, yeah, my wife doesn't have that. I got real heated.
Were you like, your body language says otherwise?
I was fuming. And I don't know about you, and I don't know about your listeners, but when I meet defensiveness with defensiveness, it doesn't really go very well.
Yeah.
So that's how the conversation went. Not well. And we got back to our room and I was fuming to my husband and he said, Maudie, with someone like that, it might help to have statistics versus feelings, right? Like, I feel this way. I feel like with someone like that, what if you had numbers and data? And thus the mom guilt research project was born. And that's what I'm doing.
That is an incredible story. Oh my gosh. And how what a like to have your husband be able to be like, "Hey, let's get out of this emotional state for a second. Like, I hear you, you are validated." But like that's amazing to have somebody to bring that
Yeah.
perspective to you and say, "Hey,
And what a risky
how to really."
move.
Yeah, right?
Because I was real fired up. So he took a risk, and I'm so glad that he did, because now I do have statistics, and um, hundreds of women have taken the survey and helped me out, and I have all these stories that I'm feel so inspired to share, so that your listeners and the rest of us can feel less alone and can see ourselves in the stories and start to build some awareness around how mom guilt may possibly be holding us back.
Oh, yeah, not even may possibly, it 100% does, like,
Yeah,
let's just be straight, because it
it
does, and
does.
it's huge, we get in our own ways so much just because we do, and I it's funny because I have a post I've written forever ago that I like to reuse and repurpose, it's about FOMO, because it
Mm.
doesn't matter whether you feel bad about something with your kids, if you don't do that, if you do something else, you're going to feel bad about missing out on that. So it's just a give and take of what is really worth pursuing because there's always going to be something you're missing out on. And it's
Always.
just what you're showing them how you can show. Oh, I love this conversation. But
Yeah, me
my
too.
next
Me too.
question my next question for you is what then on that journey, what do you think is
Mhm.
the biggest adversity that you have answered so far, and how did you answer it? What challenge did you come up against?
Oh, for me?
Yeah, on this.
Oh gosh. Yeah, yeah. Okay, great question. And it's mom on mom guilt. And it's subtle mommy shaming that
Mhm.
that other I don't wanna say we, because I hope I don't do this, and I may. It's this subtle mom on mom shaming that we impose on each other. So I've been talking about mom guilt, and I'm a life coach, so I talk about living on purpose and creating a life by design. And I posted something recently, right after Thanksgiving. Two of my kids came home from college. We hosted everybody. I did a lot of the cooking. You know, the house has not has to. I chose to have my house look a certain way, and I was exhausted, Jessica, by the end of that. And so I'm sending the two olders back to college, and I thought, you know what, babe, my daughter, I said, I don't want to drive you to the airport. It could be a 2-hour commute each way. I'm exhausted, and honestly, I kind of just want to rest. And so we put her on the airport shuttle. It's just a bus that takes her to the airport. She's done it before. And I posted a picture of her getting on the airport shuttle. And I said, I don't take my big kids to the airport. I choose to do other things like take a bath.
Yeah.
Pro tip, you don't have to bend over backwards for everybody this holiday season, including your kids. That was it. It was just a reminder that you could do what you want,
Yeah, and
Jessica.
it doesn't affect anybody, and she probably did not care.
And couldn't, no, she couldn't care less. The mommy shaming I got. The mommy shaming, and it's so subtle. It looks like this. Well, or actually it was like a like a HMMM, Or you could have seen it as a way to spend more time with your daughter before she left. Another one was, my favorite conversations are in the car. Too bad you didn't go. And of course, there was a lot of other comments like, thank you for the reminder, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. But those are
But
the ones that stick with you the most, right?
those are the ones that stick with you the most. Unfortunately, it's so true. And of course, I clapped back and I was like, "Thank you for shaming me." And, "Oh my god, that's not what I intended." I said, "I know. Read your comment." It's
Yeah.
what it actually was the intention.
Mhm.
And so
Even
I would
better.
say, yeah, so subtle. So for me, the biggest challenge is putting myself out there in this way, because it's not about me. It's not about my decisions, but what I'm putting out there is rubbing some folks the wrong way, including that guy, that pilot. right? For some reason, this conversation rubbed him the wrong way. I've had many, oh my gosh. I mean, like now the stories are coming. Like I was speaking to an audience and one of the gentlemen beelined for me. I was talking about real estate. I was talking about mom guilt, but I was talking about my real estate. And he's like, what about dad guilt? And I thought, I'm not a dad. I'm not going to come up here and talk about something I haven't experienced. So anyway, that has been the challenge, is putting myself out there in this way and getting that pushback.
And how do you combat that?
Mm,
Because
mm,
that is a real, like, everybody is going to have to deal with that if you are putting yourself out there, especially on social media, because the keyboard warriors are more
yeah,
than happy to
yeah.
come out,
Mm,
and they're protected by that, and they don't see the repercussions, even if they don't intend to do harm.
yeah.
Often it's in interpretation, and it's in, your experiences and how you are going to
Mhm.
receive that as well. So how do you really combat that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
continue to post knowing you're going to receive that from some people?
Yeah. I lean on the positive comments and the DMs, because a lot of the comments come in DMs because people don't want to put themselves out there, and they say, "Thank you so much for talking about this. I went to a concert this weekend. I left my kids at home because of you." And it's leaning on those stories. It's leaning on those responses. And someone, when I started my very first business back in 2008, someone, and it's insurance, so it has nothing to do with this, but they gave me a piece of advice. They said, start a folder. And literally, they were talking about like a folder that you put paper in and put all of the positive emails you get. Put all the positive like notes or responses that mean something to you in the moment, because there's going to come a day when you want to quit. There's going to come a day that's so hard you want to walk away. And then you have this folder. And so, that's another, like, I'll take screenshots. And after this episode, I will ask you, Jessica, I'll say, would you give me a review? Would you give me a testimonial? Like, how was this conversation? And then I have that to go back to when the next podcast person says, mom guilt's the last thing I want to talk about. And then that hurts. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
have, but I have what you said and the other person has said to boost me back up so I can keep showing up, because it's very important.
Yeah, it really is. I love that. I love even print. I never even thought about having it in a physical folder. Like, I do have a folder on my computer where I keep testimonials or screenshots that I've taken, but I never thought about like printing them and putting them in a physical folder. And I love physical like books. I don't like audiobooks. I don't like books on my Kindle. I don't do that. I like physical books. So that's funny. I've never even thought about doing it that way and having that as like an extra boost. I
Or
think
even
that's
like
amazing.
make it your screensaver, put it on your
Yeah,
vision board. Like,
yeah.
let's keep these positive words front and center.
I think that's incredible. One of my coaches actually just did a post about having a folder like that that she wasn't even able to get through it all in 3 hours. So I'm like, that's what I want. I want
Oh,
to have so much in there that I can't
mm,
get through it even if I wanted to. So
yes.
I think that's so wise. Oh, and I think probably the first time I've heard anybody say that on this.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
What do you think it is then about entrepreneurs that makes us continue on through challenges without giving up when times get tough? So, you know, if we don't have that folder yet for us, what do you
Mm,
think it is about us that is like, you know what, we're going to keep going anyway? When you started in
mm.
coaching, when you started getting some of that pushback, what do you think it is about us that keeps us going anyway?
What a great question. And I feel like we're a different breed in and of itself, right? An entrepreneur is, we just think differently. And so there's that, right? We have a different drive. I am not saying we have more of a drive. We have a different drive, and that's what sustained me. Other things that I've leaned on is my why, my purpose. Going back to, why am I doing this? Why why do I have my coaching practice? Um, and remembering that, that reason would be, for me, what keeps me going. And I got big goals, and they won't be realized if I stop. It doesn't mean I haven't pivoted many times along the way. Um, but for example, my real estate, right? I've got a couple properties and they're a pain in the ass. I
Yep,
want to
right.
sell them like all the time. And it's remembering my why. My why is 30 years, 20 years from now. That's my why. It's long game. This is not intended for me as a short game. And so if I could picture that, to picture that passive income that's going to happen in the future, that keeps me going.
I love that. One follow-up question to that then is, as you pivot, because pivots, changes, all of that is natural and normal, how do you let go of something that you did have a long-term goal for, but then it shifted and
Mm,
is no longer fitting what your new long-term goal is? How do you let go of
mm.
something like that?
I find it pretty easy because I am very flexible with my identity. I'm not flexible with my purpose and my why. And so our identities change constantly, right? We're a podcaster and then we take a pause. We're right now I'm almost on the cusp of being a empty nester. That is going to be a huge new identity that I'm going to take on. And so I'm going to keep my purpose and my why stable. That never changes. But I have no problem letting go of dreams and goals when I've outgrown them. It's like
Yeah.
the next thing, it's the next iteration, it's the next identity. And how I do that, probably with a lot of therapy, um, coaching, right? I have my own coaches who help me realize that it's time to let go or it's not. And there was another um journaling.
Oh, right.
My
Yes.
journal is like, that's where I'm like, oh, okay, I can get real and get honest. I do it every single day. So I would say those three things make it a bit easier for me to pivot and then let go to make space for more.
I love that. I think that's so great. And having the three, I love this. This is a great conversation.
Yay!
So then one other question I have, I think especially for you because your kids are older now, but you started when they were relatively little, right?
Mhm.
How do you go about when you start increasing having more time? Because I imagine as they get older, not only does your relationship with them shift a little bit, but then your availability and everything for your business also shifts a little bit. How did you kind of
Mm.
navigate that and also the emotions that come with your kids then getting older and getting out of the house and being like, "Oh, okay, I might not see them every day now." Um,
Yeah.
how do you navigate that?
I think it's backwards. I wish it was the opposite because as I was building my business, they were young and I wasn't available.
Yeah.
I was hustling and grinding and I wasn't home a lot. And there's a lot of photos that I'm not in. And there's a lot of school situations that I missed. And
Mhm.
so it's a bummer, right? It's like I decided that I was going to go all in over here and then go as much as I could here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the path that I chose, especially because I had kids so young. And then I love the idea of like having more time and considering that. So my thought on that is we got to be intentional with it. I was just on a coaching call with a client the other day and she's experiencing this phenomenon of like her daughter is older and can stay home by herself and her business is starting to run on its own. She's not needed. I keep like inviting her like can you please make yourself unnecessary? Like can we please make you not essential
Yeah.
in the business? Let's get you out of it. And she's there. She's realizing it. And then my next invitation was do not fill the time.
That's
Take
so hard.
take a minute. What do you want to do? Because yes, we could create another business and do more podcasts and do more blogs and have more whatever. And if that's what you want, for sure, go for it. But also, you might want to do nothing or journal or spend more time with your partner or redefine the marriage, right? And so I think we fall into identities by default, and we really don't at different stages decide who am I going to be now? what's the character, what's my vibe, who am I going to show up as in each area as they shift, and the invitation as they move out of the house or into kindergarten or whatever is, who do I want to be in this stage?
Oh, I love that in this stage. I also do you find, as ambitious women, we do tend to want to fill all that space. We don't know
Mhm.
what to do when there's space and there's nothing like, oh, I can read. Oh, I can do, because even I feel like
Mhm.
before you had kids, at least for me, before I had kids, I was busy. There was one time I had 36 credit hours and 6 jobs. But I still had time to like read a book when I wanted to. I still had a social life. But like now I think about that and I was like, there's no way I would function, first of all, but also after kids, I'm like, I all of my space was taken up. So I'm very big on advocating for creating space and letting it be because it is so almost unnerving at first,
Yeah.
but it's really great. Like you can be more productive after you have
Mm.
some of that downtime. You have the ability to, I don't know, like regulate yourself so that you can help them regulate themselves. I'm a recovering hothead as well. So I think that was really difficult for me to realize and fix some of the things that I needed
Mhm.
to in myself in order to then help my kids more or my clients more or anything like that. So hi. Love that. That's beautiful.
Your story is bringing up in me. I'm the exact same. And I hustled so hard in therapy, or I hustled so hard in the business. Led me to burnout, into the emergency room, which landed me in therapy. And because I was such an hustler, I literally went to therapy and I was like, I brought my journal and I was like, okay, tell me what to do. What's step one? Literally, because I just thought like there's got to be an easy solution. This is crazy. I actually have no time for this. And he's like, "Oh, you're so sweet." Yeah, that's not how it works. Right? We're going to go slow. We're going to do nothing. We're going to talk. We're going to go deep. And so my thought for folks who are like, I don't know how to do that. I do not know how to not fill the time. Find a mentor, therapy, a coach, support, just to help slow you down. And then there's that guilt that we talk about. Mom guilt, productivity guilt, call it whatever you want, but the guilt of doing nothing can be extreme. And so what you said is it could feel very unnerving, and
Mhm.
that you nailed it. And so when something is unnerving, when something is uncomfortable, our tendency is to resist. But it's just like lifting weights. Like it's just like, yeah, working out or running or lifting weights. Like it is going to be uncomfortable and you're going to be sore, right? Have you ever like had leg day and then it hurt to like sit on the toilet the next day? It hurts. It's hard. Same with doing nothing. So give yourself a break. It's going to be hard. You're not weird that it's hard. And then we get to just like do our reps, little reps every single day. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this doesn't feel as hard.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. And permission to try, permission to practice, permission to not do it well. Right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. So what overall takeaway or lesson do you think that other mompreneurs would be able to use specifically from your experience?
Yeah. Face the mom guilt because we all have it. And actually it shows up in every single aspect of our lives. Entrepreneurship, our partnerships, our relationships, our friendships, passions, hobbies, goals. It like literally mom guilt infiltrates it all. And when something is that woven so deeply, it's important because to look at it and become aware of it, because I believe that if it's that insidious, we're making decisions not out of intention, but because of the guilt,
Mm,
because of what we think we should do. And so, as we know, change starts with awareness. And I have created a mom guilt survey that I hope you don't mind me just like pitching this and throwing this out there. because it helps the research. I want to get as much data as I possibly can. But I'm also realizing is I'm hearing from the moms who have taken it is it's helping them with their awareness. Like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that my mom guilt started when I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that my mom guilt was imposed upon me from my mom or whatever. And then it's
Right.
with that awareness that you start to spot mom guilt in the wild, right? You're like, maybe you're at work and you're in the zone and you have a choice. Order pizza uh, to, feed the kids and finish your project, or leave your project when you're in the zone and go make dinner. And you'll start to see it out in the wild and then be able to make an intention like, I am flowing. I never get in this flow. I am going to stay here. Pizza is on its way.
I
So take the survey. That's what
Yeah.
I would say. Like, get aware, take the survey. Let's face this. Let's confront it. Let's talk about it so that we can destigmatize it.
Yes. And yeah, absolutely. I think that's I'm glad you plugged it because I feel like that's going to be so transformative for so many people. It is awareness. One of my clients says what you resist persists. And
Mm,
so awareness, absolutely. It's the first key. And just taking a minute to be able to reflect on those points is huge because then once you are aware of it, you can acknowledge it. When you acknowledge it, you can then start to be more aware of it as it happens instead of after the fact. And
yeah.
that's when you can finally start to change. And I think that's so amazing. And I think it's often overlooked because we are so good at justifying things for ourselves. And I think that'll be the first step for them to stop justifying it is, okay, I have to face it as it is.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. There's always going to be a justification to putting other people in front of ourselves. And my invitation is to do that less.
I love that. I'll absolutely have links and things in the description, but if people are just listening in, what are some ways that they can be in your space or work with you or learn more about you?
Thank you. So Instagram's a great way to kick it. And the way I do my coaching is in a community. It's a group coaching program called The Crew, and it's where inspired women gather to go after goals and dreams unapologetically and create a life that we live. And all of my coaching content goes in there. It's $97 a month. I'm proud of my accessibility rate, and you get it all. You get everything, and it's transformational.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mari. I am so excited. I like to tell everybody that your story is not only inspirational, but your willingness to be open about it is very much appreciated and needed in this space, especially. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
It is. I'm excited to stay in touch.
Yay.
And then for those of you out there facing your own adversity, know that you're not alone. That is why we are doing what we are doing. And when you need an extra hand or mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, you can join the crew, or we would also love to work with you through the Mom Elevated Society. You'll find monthly check-ins for goal setting and assessing. Plus, we now have the Gift Yourself Grace quarterly reflection program and so much more for both your business and your mom life. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars.